Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Dorton and Duckett Debate Podcast. I am Lucas Dorton, Nick Duckett joining on the screen, courtesy of his iPhone. So we're glad that he made it work for that. And the other gentleman joining us, folks, he's got the Waterville Indians logo already in the top left of the screen. He's got the shirt ready to roll. Nolan Grose, Waterville Indians. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on. Definitely have known you a little bit from the Bethany days, so I'm glad we're able to kind of reconnect now in the Townball days and made something work for us. So certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, Lucas, you and I have, it's been quite some time since college. That was probably like 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago.
Something like that. Time flies by when you're having fun.
Yep.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Nolan, we'll kind of just get right into it here. So, a couple of questions that I usually like to ask guests when they first come on, just because I don't know, I'm always intrigued kind of where people's baseball fandom came from and kind of the people that they looked up to. But who is your all-time favorite Major League Baseball player?
My favorite's probably Ken Griffey Jr. Ben Baran. I don't know if you're familiar
Yep.
with him,
Hmm.
but Ben and I have had an obsession with Ken Griffey since we were young children. I even remember calling his house phone, telling him to turn on the TV because Ken Griffey was about to hit in the home run derby. So
Nice.
he made baseball cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The sweetest swing ever.
Hat backwards, he's got it all.
The kid, absolutely. Now I'm assuming Minnesota Twins, that's your team, right? For Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I obviously clearly do root for the Twins, but I I like some of the East Coast teams too. Had a weird stretch where I was obsessed with the Red Sox. Had a weird stretch where I was obsessed with the Yankees.
Mhm.
But more times than not, I'm always clearly cheering for the Twins to be successful.
Do you have an all-time favorite Twins player?
Yeah, probably Torrey Hunter, I would say.
Yeah.
My parents actually named their yellow lab after Torrey Hunter because my mom had a huge crush on Torrey Hunter.
That's
So
funny.
probably, I would say probably Torrey. He was fun.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, Nick got to play catch with Bernard Span, so I think that's one of his favorite guys.
Ah,
Hmm.
interesting.
Tori was one of my favorites growing up too.
Yeah, just a very likable guy. I feel like if you don't like Torrey Hunter, you got other problems.
Right. I was saddened when he went to the Angels, but oh well.
All good things must come to an end.
He
That's
did
right.
come
Unless
back
you're a
though.
Rockies fan, you never get any good things. Those rarely happen. Rarely happen.
He made the World Series once.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. National League champs.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's got swept by Boston. Yep.
Uh,
Yep. So first and probably the last time in my lifetime that's ever gonna happen, but that's okay. That's okay. No, that's awesome though. Like I said, I think it's always just cool. Different people's interests and the kid and Torrey Hunter are two pretty solid guys to choose from, so it's cool. Um, so growing up, I guess, what initially attracted you to baseball? Like what got you into it? Because you've pretty much been a lifer. You've been in it for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice. The baseball field here in town is named after my grandfather, so my family has taken care of the field, the little things, the maintenance, TLC since I can ever remember. So I remember being 5 years old and my dad not forcing me, but kind of forcing me to
Strongly
go down there and
suggesting.
yeah, strongly suggesting me to go down there and work and help with him on some of the field projects. And it's kind of funny now when I get older, it's the opposite end. It's not him forcing or strongly suggesting me to come down there and help. I actually enjoy it now, take a little bit more pride in doing it once you get a little bit older and kind of seeing all the work that your dad and grandfather and other people within the Waterville Baseball Club have put in over the years. So I was from the start, right away. Watching my dad and his teammates too, they had some pretty fun runs in the early 2000s that were also fun to be a part of, being a bat boy. And There's a number of the Indians still on the team now that were bat boys for their dad, 20
wow.
years ago. So
So a lot of pretty deep family ties kind of everywhere on the team, not just from you either.
right, yeah, there's a lot like Ben and Brody Brand. Their dad played for the Indians. There's a couple of the Bartles that played for the Indians. I think right now we have 3 or 4 sets of brothers on the team, and the other half of the team is not necessarily brothers, but they're all cousins. people
Yeah.
people might make fun of Waterville for that, but the with the Indians, there is a lot of same families and same groups of people that have been involved for decades. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think that probably adds another sense of pride to it too. Just kind of knowing like there are generations like built into this and like you obviously care about winning and want to do well, but so do the generation before you and the one before that, just because they remember the time that they were in it and sacrificed like you did. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And even a few of the times that we won or made the state tournament, some of the older adults, I'm just going to call them, not going to call them old, but some of the adults would come up and say like, give me a big hug and say like, congratulations. It means more and more each time you make it. And then they would say back when we were playing, it's cool to have that connection.
Mhm.
So when and maybe you all always kind of had this feeling growing up in Townball, but like, was there ever a moment where like it hit and you're like, wow, this means like so much more? I don't know. Did you ever had that like realization moment, or is that just always something that was just always built into you, kind of?
It's kind of an interesting question. So when I was younger, I started playing, like actually started for the Indians, and I was probably like 17 years old. I was on the roster when I was 15, but I was a part of the team when I was 17, and I was the oddball, kind of the young guy trying to keep up with the older guys. And we made the state tournament in 2012 and went on a pretty good little run there. I think we made the final weekend.
Mm.
I was a 17-year-old, had no clue what the hell I was doing. And I was just trying to keep my spot for the older guys. And then now the last couple of years, I'm the old guy trying to, you know, getting impressed by the young guys. So it's a big circle.
Yeah. What's I guess what's the biggest thing that you learned from 17-year-old Nolan that the guys passed down to you that you kind of find yourself maybe passing on to this younger generation now of Waterville players?
Uh, I don't know. That's also an interesting question. I would say when I was young, when you're in high school baseball, you don't necessarily pay attention to the game of baseball as you do once you get a little bit older.
Yep.
Things like working the count, pitch selection, pitch tendencies. I mean, we learn that and you hear that in high school, but once you're actually around players and people who actually do it and put it in practice, I would say that was probably an eye opener for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. I think you're probably not alone in that feeling. I know myself at least. I mean, Nick, I'm sure as well. Like in high school, like knowing what I know now, if I were to go back in high school and like high school Lucas, I mean, it would have been just a world of difference from where I was then to where I am now.
Yeah,
That's kind of funny.
definitely.
Yeah.
Nick, you feel the same way?
I do. I Well, and part of it was just like, I'm more dedicated now than I was. Like in high school, you're just this lazy kid who just doesn't put in the work. And now it's like, man, if I would have put in the work, I could have been much better. But there's things I've learned. Like I've always known a lot about baseball. I feel like I've played baseball and watched baseball my whole life, but I still learn more and more about it every year. There's so much about baseball. You keep learning. It's like, man, if I knew these things in high school, it would have been nice.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
also feel like too when you're in high school, it's a lot easier to get caught up in some of the other,
Yeah.
other sports and other social events and
Yeah.
graduation
Mhm.
and this and that. And then, like you said, now Nick, when you get a little bit older, it's much more you're a little more dedicated because there's just not so many other things available to you.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's some people who like have been watching town ball games for years and years and years, and they used to play it. And it's like, there's some people who really passionate about. I mean, I'm sure you get that about high school too, but like I've always felt like town team, like you're playing for more, it seems like, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do like that part of town team too. Like you mentioned, people who just have watched town team for decades or games and games all summer long. There's a local gentleman here that I actually went to school with who's a few years older than me. He did play baseball. I do remember he had a few injuries, but he's just extremely passionate about town team baseball, and he just kind of travels throughout the area and watches different games, not even just Waterville Indians, but he'll go and watch Faribault and Union Hill on a random Wednesday,
Nice.
Vesleyan, whoever on a random Sunday. Like he just is passionate about town team baseball and just wants to watch it. And he's decked out with all the hats and all the shirts and the can koozies. You know, he'll support
Nice.
the concession stands and stuff too. I don't know if you really get that level of kind of interest in many other amateur, sports or teams or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And that's something that, I've said on the show multiple times before. So, like, definitely sound like a broken record with it. But, like, going from Colorado and, like, Nolan, we were just talking about it, like, before we started recording here, like, there's nothing. Like, you have your Sunday, men's rec league, 35 plus, that two people show up for and no one's going to care about. But, like, yeah, and then coming out here and, being part of the team and, even my first, year and some change, I barely played. I mean, it was a lot of watching and just kind of taking it all in, like deservedly so. But like, I mean, I don't know, just seeing the support and like how much people who maybe haven't even ever played baseball before, like care about it. Like it just is a so much like you're playing for more and like you want to do well for yourself obviously selfishly but like also for the 11-year-old kid in the stands that thinks you're the next best thing where well you just had a 9 to 5 job that you probably could complain about with
Yeah.
the guys in the dugout but you go out on
Right.
that field and you're a superstar to them so I don't know
Right.
that's pretty cool.
Like when we play like Gaylord specifically, like our biggest rival, it's like I put a lot of pressure on myself for those games. Like I feel like I let the whole town down if I don't play good, right? It's like I probably shouldn't put that much pressure on me, but it's like I care about that game a lot because a lot of people do, and it's like no, that's a playoff game every year. It's like we got to win this one
What do
because
they call
it's
it? The highway hogs or hog? What is it?
the Highway 5 rivalry or like the sometimes
Don't you do like a hog feed or something
they do
too?
the hog
Sometimes.
roast. They call it the hog roast. We play there because they always have pork sandwiches and whatnot. And then typically
Gotcha.
we have pork chops typically. So
Sure.
yeah,
There's another
the Highway
exhibit,
5 hog rivalry or something like that.
exhibit A and exhibit B about another cool thing about town team, and I'm
Who,
sure a lot of people come out and watch.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Who was your biggest rival, Waterville?
When we play Morristown, that's always a fun game, especially when we play in
100%.
Morristown. There's some interesting fans that have been lifers there for a long time. So that's always a fun game. But in playoffs, we've had some good battles with Belle Plaine over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think I can't even remember how many times it's came down to us or Belle Plaine, and they've always been really good, competitive, clean baseball games.
This last year it was, right?
Yep, it came down to us and them last
Yeah.
year as well as the
You,
year before.
you crushed them if I'm remembering correctly.
No, it was a close game. I think we won like 8-4, but it was super tight until like the 7th or 8th inning.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I was
Oh, maybe
watching the game on
I'm
the
probably thinking of
berm
the
over
Jordan
there in
game.
Jordan. That was a fun one.
What's that, Lucas?
I said that was a fun one to take in. I was sitting over there on the grass berm there in Jordan watching that one. That was a fun one to watch.
Sure.
That was a good one. So, growing up, what positions did you play, and did you kind of dabble a little bit everywhere? Or have you kind of mainly been the outfield first base combo?
No, so I actually had never played for or outfield until I got to college my freshman year, and I showed up and there was like 5 or 6 dudes who were way bigger and better and stronger than me. And I remember Coach Craig going, I think we might try you in the outfield a little bit. So I actually I dislike playing the outfield, but I've kind of been forced to go out there just, so some other people can play first base in college and in town teams. So I've kind of learned to adapt a little bit. But I was mainly a first baseman and a pitcher. I did catch every once in a while in high school, but mainly first base and pitcher until college. And then after that, I would say I play the outfield like 90% of the time and play first maybe 10% of the time.
I don't
So
remember. Are you a lefty fielding or righty fielding?
I'm a righty fielding.
Because you hit left. Okay. So
yeah,
you could. So I was wondering because you said catcher. Because I'm like, so you could have played, short and third if you wanted. And you weren't limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never really had to or was forced to. Been fortunate enough that Ben Brand, he's a couple grades younger than me, but he's he's pretty old for his age. So Ben got that left side pretty well locked down since he could like basically drive. So luckily they didn't have to see me over there trying to field ground balls.
Nolan Arenado-esque, I bet you would have been.
Oh man, he's fun to watch. Do you still follow him?
Oh, I have to. Yeah, that's my boy. That's my
Nice.
boy. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I guess what are some of the biggest things that you look forward to each year, in Townball? You've been doing it like you mentioned since your roster since 15, so has every year the more you play, are there new things you look forward to, or for the most part is it just kind of what's going to come, but you learn to appreciate those moments just as much too?
I think you hit the nail on the head there on your second point there.
Sure.
I remember when I was younger and, say there was years where we didn't make the state tournament. I remember being really, 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 really ticked off and would almost throw a fit. And now when I get older, I've learned to put things into perspective a little bit and appreciate each game and playoff run or whatever, state tournament run, whatever it is. I've kind of learned to appreciate it a little more, soak it in. You don't know, how many more times that's going to happen, how many more games you're going to play. So I think just with age, I would say I've learned to appreciate things a little bit more. And I still get as excited as I did when, for your first game ever. I guarantee it, that first time I'll step in the box and I'll be shaking and it's going to be a meaningless game in the middle of May.
Yeah. 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 And then August comes around and you're like, okay, I'm ready for a little break now.
Yeah, it's fun once I wouldn't say a little break.
Yeah.
I like once you get going, I really like to keep things rolling. But on the opposite end, if you're in a pinch or you're struggling or you're in a slump, it seems like you got a baseball game every freaking day and you just can't get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How cool is it playing with your brother? Has that been a pretty special thing for you growing up?
Yeah, it is. There was a point in time when I was better than Dutchy. That has long surpassed. So it's cool to see him progress as a pitcher as well as a hitter. And there's no other level of competitiveness than with your brother. Meaning, like, if I suck, Dutchy will come up to me, what are you doing? Figure it out, and I'll do the same to him. It's just, you can push each other a little bit different when it's your brother rather than somebody else. So yeah, it's just fun to be competitive with your brother and just play actual meaningful baseball games with him.
You also coached him too, right? Like, what was that like? I remember playing. I've played against you many times, and I've played against you when you coached, and I've actually never beat you. But I remember in Legion when Dutchy was playing, you were coaching, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was a fun summer. We actually there was a lot of the current members of the Indians now on our team that were a part of that Legion team. Dallas McBroom was a part of it. Brody, Ben Brand. Ben actually helped me coach, but Dutchy was a part of it. They're kind of our main core for our town team, was that main core for that Legion team. But as far as Dutchy, when I coached him, he was a little bit older. I think he was going to be a senior then. and all the other ones were like sophomores and juniors. So I would utilize him just kind of for his age. Hey, Dutchy, what do you think about this? Like, do you think so and so can play here? I kind of would pick his brain a little bit as far as just the team a little more, because he been a part of it. There has been a few times I remember in the district tournament. I think you guys played in it as well. It was in Montgomery one year.
Montgomery, yeah.
Dutchy started on a Friday. We won that first game. Then we played on Saturday, lost the Saturday game. Then we played on Sunday, and I didn't really have any other ideal pitchers left anymore. So I remember asking Dutchy, I'm like, hey, I know you just pitched Friday, but can you give us something here? Can you try to start for us on Sunday? He said, yeah, sure, I'll try it. He was doing it, and he was pitching well. I remember he actually had a no-hitter, but I could tell he started to get fatigued, and I remember walking out to the mound to try to grab the ball from him. I'm like, dude, don't blow out your arm here for this. You've got a lot of ball ahead of you. And he refused to do it, and there was a little sibling words that were said, and he ended up giving the ball up to Thomas Hiller, who continued the no-hitter, and we got beat 2-1. So we threw a combined no-hitter and got beat by 1 run, but they scored 2 runs.
Ouch.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, it is what it is. But Thomas Hiller can now say he threw a no-hitter, and he hasn't really pitched ever that much in his life. So to be able to say he was a part of a combined no-hitters, he likes that.
Nice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you got to take that to the bank every chance you get.
Yeah, but it was fun. I know you were coached by Reiki too for Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex
has coached me more than any other player.
I did notice that in your guys' last podcast. I heard that stat. But I do feel like you guys, and this is just an outsider, I feel like you guys get along. I mean, if you're with somebody for enough time, you kind of know each other's tendencies. Is it pretty fun to be able to be around somebody like that for so long?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know Alex really well. So and there's times I might be stubborn and I just I speak up to him when I shouldn't. But I know Alex knows me, how I feel, what kind of player I am. I know Alex is a coach. So I'm not afraid to speak my mind to him, but we both know we respect each other and listen and hear each other out too. And we've experienced a lot in baseball and life, honestly. So it's always fun playing for Alex.
Sure. No, I think that's sweet.
Yeah.
So Nolan, talk to me a little bit about Bethany, your decision to play ball there, and kind of how did all that come to fruition for you?
Sure. Well, both of my parents went to Bethany. My dad played baseball there and basketball there, and my mom went to school there. I had an aunt and an uncle that went there as well. So there was some family, tradition, if you will, dating back quite some time. So that also helped. Coach Craig recruited me and would come to some of my high school games and would text me and everything. And I'm very glad I went to Bethany. It was a great baseball program. I've learned and got some really cool, good friends from there, and had a great time playing college baseball. And it's unfortunate now, Lucas, they didn't have the facilities they do now. Right after we're gone, they get to play at the Frank and got the big, huge indoor facility there on campus. So it's cool to see them trending in the upward, trending in the right direction. And their baseball program, I think, is going to be pretty dang competitive for years to come. I don't know how you don't get better with the track record you've had in the last couple of years, winning the conference tournament, as well as the facilities they have now, and not to mention the people. Coach Craig and Danny Nealand are two pretty awesome people. So I hope to see them continuing to climb upward.
Lucas and I utilized those facilities just last week, so they are nice.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet. Luckily, we've been fortunate enough. Danny, do you know Danny at all, Nicholas?
I do not. Danny what?
Danny Nealand. He's one of the assistants at Bethany.
No, I don't know him.
Sure. Lucas went to school with him and I at the same time, and he was actually my roommate, and so he's got keys to there. So we've been going in there every Sunday for probably close to 2 months now before they have their camps and stuff, and it is unbelievable facility. And I don't know if you're a local high school kid how you look at that and not want to go there.
Yeah.
That would be so cool to have at the tip of your fingers for a college kid.
Yep. Yeah, put that in right after we were done. Imagine those 6 a.m. practices in the old gym.
Yeah, that old rig crappy gym with terrible lighting, and
I
yeah, they've
always
came a long ways.
I always struggled so much in that gym, like playing catch, because you throw it at the perfect height and the ball starts in the white of the paint on the wall
Yep.
and stays
Yeah.
up there. And so I can't, it's like I don't know where the ball's going. I
Yeah,
feel
that
like the
was
biggest
tough.
clown out there.
That was tough. Anytime you're in a gym, kind of stinks. I just drove past the field here in Waterville, and this is, I think it's the first or second day the high schoolers could practice. They're practicing outside right away.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know all three of us have had terrible inside gym high school practices before in our life. So
Well, I coached varsity at MVL last year, and I think our first 4 weeks basically were all inside. You run out of things to do. You're like,
oh, absolutely.
especially when you're sharing it with like with the track team, the softball team, the golf. I'm like, I don't know, guys. I guess go run.
Yeah,
Like,
for the 100th time, and I'm
like
sure
only
there's
so much we can do.
yeah. I do think there is a time and a place though for gym practices. I
Yep.
think you can get some, first and thirds and bunt coverages done simpler, but that's really about it. Let's be honest.
Yep.
I was actually coaching on the WEM baseball staff. I think I was still in college or maybe just a year after, and it was one of them winters that just kept going on and on and on. And Sam Steer, are you too familiar with Sam
Yeah,
Steer?
he's been on the podcast.
Yep.
Nice. He was the head coach at the time, and I'm like, dude, Sammy, we got to get these kids doing something else. Like we got to figure something else. Like they've been great, but let's not lose them here. So we ended up, I remember it was a Gopher Conference bowling competition at the bowling alley in Waterville on like a random April day because none of the other teams could play or compete, and they were in the same boat we were. So I think there was like 6 or 7 different schools came, and they wore their jerseys and stuff and bowled and made a little, a cute little trophy for it. So it was just something
Nice.
to be different. Just to give the kids something to look forward to. So it's nice to see them actually being able to be on track this year.
Made the best out of kind of a crappy situation there for
Yeah,
sure.
no doubt.
Absolutely. So in your time at Bethany, I always tell people like I think that first month, and obviously like I didn't play, student management stuff, but like that first month that I was there as a freshman, honestly, I think I learned more about baseball than I probably had in 4 years when I was in high school. Um, just a very calculated, like everything that you're doing it for a reason. And in the moment, it may not seem like, oh, this is the 15th straight practice. We're doing firsts and thirds, but then you get into a game where it's like, all right, here you go. Like, this is what you've been doing. So I guess in your time at Bethany, like what are some of the biggest things that you took from being there and that you now have kind of taken with you, on the rest of the way here?
Sure. I do remember the first fall practice that I showed up to. All the guys had beards. They were bigger than me. They were stronger than me. They just looked like men compared to, what we're used to. And obviously, I'm from a small town. Played in the smallest class for high school baseball. I think you can get somewhat pigeonholed a little bit to area talent and teams around you, and then you go to the college level, and just to see the sheer level of talent from some of the other players, it was kind of shocking a little bit. I do know as far as a pure game of baseball wise, there is obviously some differences. but I had my dad as a high school baseball coach, and
Mm.
I think he did a very good job of teaching us the small things about baseball. And obviously I did learn, but I don't necessarily remember being blown away by, some of the tendencies and things like that. But it was just really the sheer talent from going from a 1A school, and we were good in high school too. We had a great team, but you get to any collegiate level, it's everybody was their best player.
Mm-hmm.
I also was very fortunate enough to kind of get in with some upperclassmen that were led by example and would actually teach me some things, like Lucas Hurd. Nick, I'm sure
Yep.
obviously you're familiar with him.
Yep.
Lucas did a lot for me when I was a freshman, just to kind of point me in the right direction, not make me look like an idiot. So I was pretty fortunate there to not really get thrown to the wolves right away and have Lucas take the time out of his day to kind of help me a little bit.
Yeah, my brother played with Lucas for a few years, so I know Lucas.
They're great family. I still keep in touch with Lucas every once in a while, so he helped me out a lot, and he's a great face of Bethany baseball for 5 or 6 years as a player and a coach. So
Yeah,
I
he's a
got
heck of a
lucky.
ball player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dog making an appearance here for
Yeah,
the
it's funny. All my family's names or like dog pet names have been after athletes. So
Okay.
this one here, his name is Jeter after Derek Jeter.
Nice.
My brother Dalton has a GSP named Cruz after Nelson Cruz. As I mentioned, Tory Hunter before, and then my parents' dog now is named Tiki.
Okay.
After
Tiki Barber.
Yeah, not necessarily baseball, but just athletes.
Yeah. That's cool.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, I think for me at least, Nolan, I mean, I always appreciate it. And I don't know that I've ever told you or anything, but like coming in as a freshman and you know, obviously not, I was not good enough to play. Like I fully realize that. But like, still a lot of you guys, everyone accepted me, on the team and still making me feel like a part of things. And you were like probably one of the main dudes that like really exemplified that, like the Kevin Harris's, Babs, Nick Chaldean, like those guys especially too. And so I always really appreciated that you kind of took the time out of your day to still make me feel like I was another one of the guys on the team when you certainly had every right to just kind of do your thing as the upperclassman and go about your business. So for me to you, I just wanted to say thank you for that because that meant a lot to me, going through it and made my experiences that much more exciting, going through it all. So.
No, I appreciate that, Lucas. That we just got done talking about how much Lucas Hurd helped me. There's another example. I do think baseball is a cool sport where everybody, no matter what your role is on the team, you are a part of the team, and there are ways to help out the team. And for example, your situation as a student manager, you did a lot of things that other people might not have wanted to do. So I think it's cool to hear from your perspective because it was cool to see from my perspective you still kind of grasping and being a part of that, and wanting to be a part of it. So I do thank you for doing that. I remember, I think it was your freshman year when Trevor Story was going off, and we bought the Trevor Story jersey as a gift to you to all you've done for the baseball program. So
nice.
Yep.
You deserved it, Lucas. Don't sell yourself short. It was fun. Baseball's a game of equal opportunities.
Yep. Yep. I still have that jersey right over here in my closet. It doesn't see the light of day too much since he's not even on the Rockies anymore. But one of my favorite jerseys when he was a Rocky. So I think I'm always going to keep that one for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. That was like the Linsanity run.
Yeah.
For baseball.
Was that his rookie year when he first started? He was killing it.
Yeah. Like 9 home runs in his first like 5 games or something absurd like that was just unconscious.
Yeah, it was great. That was fun. There's always a place for everybody on a baseball team, no matter what.
Yep.
Whether you're the starting pitcher or the 5th guy off the bench, you're just as important.
Yep.
Yeah, and baseball's the ultimate true game, which is what's really nice. Mike Trout's one of the best players we've ever seen, and the dude's never won a playoff game because it takes more than
Right.
one guy.
Absolutely. One of my old coaches, John Mossberg, always told me you're only as good as your worst player. I think there's some truth to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's awesome. Well, we'll put aside the sappiness for now a little bit, but no, that was cool though. That was cool. Um, so let's talk a little bit about Waterville though, and kind of this year. And obviously, you guys did well last year. Are we thinking that's something to build on? Going into this upcoming season. I'll bringing everyone back. I assume for the most part too with that, and should be another good year for Waterville.
Yeah, I hope good things to happen. I think we're going to be competitive in pretty much every game we play. We've got our good same group of core that we've had for quite some time now. I think I'm 29. I'll be one of the 2 or 3 oldest starters, and we've got a good group from like 29 to like 23.
Nice.
So we should be another year older and a little bit more experienced. And I think each game you play, you gain a little knowledge and expertise. So it's fun to be a part of the same group and core for quite some time. I know at the beginning I talked about I was the young kid with the old guys. Now I'm kind of the older guy with the younger kids. But I think anytime you play a lot of baseball games with the same guys, you get familiar and comfortable with how they take at bats, how they approach a defensive situation. So it's fun to keep playing with the same guys, and they're great ball players. So it's fun to be around them.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of cool when you can build a core. Build a core group of guys that you grew up with and watch them play, and a little bit younger than you too, and able to do some pretty great things. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's huge, and obviously every year, there's gonna be injuries.
Yep.
There's something's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna have a wedding, whatever it may be. So if you can keep filling in those gaps and the other pieces to that core, I think you've got a pretty good recipe for success there.
Speaking of weddings, Dutchy got married on the field, right?
He did. That
That
was the
that must have been
first.
awesome. That must have been
Yeah,
really cool.
it was sweet. It was a lot of fun. My dad and I worked our butt off in the fall here doing some of the little things, some of the edging, after the season. So now I kind of joke the high school kids are just walking into a field that is in tip top shape because everything is edged and leveled and everything is completely squared away from Dutch's wedding. So they got pretty
Yeah.
lucky there, but it was sweet for Dutchy to get married down there. There's a lot of family that enjoyed it. They got a nice picture right in front of the scoreboard and everything, and the weather cooperated for Dutchy and Landry on that day. So it's kind of a
That's cool.
perfect storm.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So I guess if someone is listening to this podcast and they have never heard of Townball, never seen a Townball game, this is their first intro to it. What is your best pitch to get someone to watch Townball to get into it? Well, what do you usually tell people when they haven't heard about it before?
Um, well, that's a good question. I've never really thought of that, so I can't say I was like sitting on that question or anything. I don't necessarily know exactly how to answer that.
Yeah.
But I will say, just at a general town team game, you will see some competitive baseball being played. I mean, these guys aren't throwing 90 miles an hour, but you're gonna see a clean baseball game for the most part. You're not gonna see a snowball fight. The majority of town teams will make the plays they'll should. Um, it's just a fun game. And then as far as like a fan atmosphere, there's hot dogs and beers and popcorn and music in between innings and all the cool little tendencies that come with the game of baseball. So I think you kind of get a well-rounded fan experience as far as talent as well as fun and just cool little neat things in between the innings or after the game, before the game, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. I think Nolan, you maybe were the one that initially introduced this term to me, but I think it was you said It's like baseball in its purest form, you know. And I just 1,000% agree with that. And if you're someone listening who's never watched baseball, probably not going to know what that means, but like I 100% agree. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think just like young kids, for example, they could watch the catcher back up first base on a ground ball to the left side. That might not happen in rec league or slow pitch softball or even some Legion games. So I do think it is a pure game of baseball, and the talent level, depending on where you're at in the state, is pretty high for the most part. The guys are going to make the plays that they should, and even you'll see some plays that kind of blow your mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is your favorite town team memory if you had to pick one?
Ooh, I would say we made a run in 2019 that we won 30 games in a row. That summer was probably the best summer and the funnest summer I'll ever have.
We were probably two of those.
It was fun. We made it down to the final weekend, but as far as just even outside of baseball, that's when all the guys were just kind of turning 21. So we were tearing it up, at the street dances and going to the bars after the game and stuff. So we were on an absolute heater, and the boys had fun afterwards. So that was very fun to be a part of.
Awesome. I'm sure as far as individual accomplishments, I'm sure if I remember correctly, you did hit a walk-off grand slam in a tournament in Gaylord, didn't you?
I did. That was quite some time ago.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah, it's fun. I remember that tournament, and actually, I remember seeing Reiki. I was the Legion coach, and Reiki was also the Legion coach for Sibley East, and we just so happened to be at the same bar after the game, and then we played Sibley East on Tuesday, and it was like, "What's up, Reiki?"
Was Alex on Gaylord at that time? I don't remember.
I can't exactly remember. I remember, but let me think. The bar that we were at was in Gaylord. It was the one across from the grocery store.
Yeah, Nison's.
Yeah, and I can't remember if he was with Gaylord or with Arlington.
Yeah, I don't remember what year that was.
I do remember he was the Sibley East coach, though, because we played them literally like the Tuesday after. That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun tournament every year. It almost always rains during it. We always have complications, but last year it went swimmingly.
Nice. We're doing the Belle Plaine tournament this year, which I'm excited.
Okay.
We've never played in the Belle Plaine one.
The Tiger Town Classic or whatever they call it.
Yeah, we play Marshall first round. It's always fun to play a team you've never played before. You got no expectations. You have no idea. It's just show up and play ball. Whatever happens, happens.
And there's just one more thing I had to mention. I just got to mention, because we played you guys. I don't know how many times I played you. A lot. I've never beat you guys, and I've never beat Jordan. One of these days. But we had the playoff game. We were winning going to the bottom of the ninth, and then you guys scored like 2 on us and beat us. And then one of the most interesting games I've probably been a part of, the only game I've ever played at ISG Field, because your field was just in torrential downpour. So we had to play at ISG, and we played pretty well that game.
Yeah,
we were playing well against the guys. And then I don't know if you remember the play. I'm sure you do. It seems like I am always the one directly involved in every weird play that goes on in playoffs. Lucas could vouch for that. I got called for runner's interference, and I will admit it was probably the right call. But that was very interesting, because I don't even remember correctly. We had runners on like first and third, and never in my life have I just like kind of slowed down as I'm running to second and then stopped to try to like screw up the guy. But some reason I kind of did. I just kind of paused real quick to, screw with your second baseman, and then he just comes and like runs in right into me, and then we scored, and everybody's going crazy, and I think I got all the way to third, and then the umps talked it over, and they said runner's interference, I'm out, and our guy had to go back to third. And then we all remember what happened. Tempers flared, and unfortunately that game ended with Lucas Bullard getting a screaming line drive right back to him. But that was off
the bat of Nolan Grose, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. It was off of me, and I felt bad. I went up to him and got him a couple beers afterwards in typical town team fashion.
Yeah. It was just so weird, because like Lucas got drilled, and we're like concerned about him. But you guys also just won, so you're celebrating. And tempers were kind of flaring that game for other reasons. And we just though Alex, I remember that was just yelling at us to get off the field. And I just said, I'm like, Alex, no. Because I wasn't arguing. I'm like, I was still telling people good game and whatever. But yeah, that was a very interesting game.
Yeah, it was. I do remember that end of that game. You'd mentioned like, it was a town team or a walk-off, excuse me. But I remember Josh Cook was the one that scored, and he like touched home plate, and he's like, I didn't know whether to celebrate or help the guy laying on the ground. He's like, it was the most anticlimactic walk-off win ever. Like, obviously we were happy to win, but you never want to see somebody else get hurt.
Right.
And I do remember, it did get pretty hot. And anytime you play in competitive, close games like that, it seems like there's always something that stirs the pot or gets things going,
Takes very little sometimes. Yep.
But that is the cool thing too of playing town team baseball. I love that level of, being able to be passionate or having people care about something, like this. If you didn't play town team, what do you get excited for,
Yep. Yep. I agree. Yeah, I think I would rather have that, kind of like you said, than have people who are out there just, I don't know, they could care less, So I agree. I agree.
It's fun, and it's more times than not, it's nothing personal on other people. It's just individuals wanting to help their team out on both sides, obviously, just for us and some of the other teams we've played against. It's never really usually anything personal, and more times than not, after the game, you can go up and say, "Hey, my bad, dude."
Yep.
Here's
go at it on the field, crack open a beer together off the field.
Right. It's fun too to play against some of Lucas. I don't know necessarily as much about your league as I do ours, but in the 1360 at least, there's a ton of ex-Bethany Vikings on the different teams. So like Jordan Grahams plays for Min Lake, Brandon Olson.
Oh yeah.
Walker Lindy used to play, Grant Beecher used to play.
Yep.
It's fun to be competitive against those guys, and even like there's a guy from Wells, Stevie Voigt, during the game. He's the biggest a-hole in the world. And after I just went to a Timberwolves game with him a month ago.
Nice.
But that's fun. It's all in good fun.
Yeah, that's like Arlington Gaylord. Like the competitive juices come out, and it typically gets pretty chippy. And then after the game, you're like, "Oh, what's up, buddy?"
Yep.
Yeah.
It's cool to have something to care about, though.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure we all played high school sports, and once you lose that competitiveness, you got to fill those holes somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, Townball came at the pretty perfect time. I kind of thought after high school, I'm like, I don't know that I'm ever going to play again. Like, going to get the chance, go back to Colorado. Like, there's nothing there. And then, coming back out here and kind of like you said, refueling that flame and getting those competitive juices going kind of makes you appreciate and show how much you did love it and why you loved it for all those reasons.
Right. Absolutely. I think just playing town team makes me enjoy baseball so much more.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Nolan, what did we miss? We covered a variety of topics here. Are there things that you thought about that you wanted to bring up or mention, or something that we maybe passed on that you wanted to talk about more?
No, I didn't necessarily come into this with any, pre-alluded questions, and you had mentioned too, you don't really have an agenda. You just kind of go with it. I kind of want to ask Nick. I know, there's the Gaylord and the Arlington rivalry, and we have the Waterville and the Morristown rivalry.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, and Green Isle is a part of Sibley East too. How does a high school kid from Sibley East figure out where they go?
It's actually really interesting. I mean, for me, I'm from Arlington. My grandpa's in the Arlington A's Hall of Fame. It was just, and my brother played for Arlington first. It was just like, well, I guess Arlington's where it's at. And a lot of people, if like they had prior family members play, it's typically they just go there. But for the other kids, it's like, where do you go? And it's actually interesting because Mitchell Matthews, I don't even know who that is. He's the Gaylord Islanders coach now. he's like my best buddy. So I'm like, Mitchell, don't be taking any of our Arlington kids now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's like we're Alabama and Auburn recruiting in state to get each one. It's like you do it, in a good way, obviously. But yeah, it's like who you play for, a lot of times it comes down to family, but if you didn't have family who played previously, it's just kind of up to you, I guess. Some people go to where they think they'll have the most playing time. Some people go where they think they'll win the most, and just kind of is what it is. But for me, it was never a question, because my dad and my grandpa played, and my brother. But
yeah, it's pretty similar here with Waterville and Morristown. I just was curious from a different
Elysian doesn't have a team, do they?
No, they actually did at one point, though. So at one point, all 3 towns in our school district had their own town team. But now a lot of those, well, actually, it's kind of funny. When Elysian folded, some of them went to Morristown and some of them came to Waterville too. So both teams benefited from them folding. It's you'd mentioned, like after the game, when you play Gaylord, it's all fun. I actually just came back from a fishing trip with 2 guys on the Morristown team. There was, there's no beef or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just a game in between the lines. It's competitive and might get a little chippy, but just family, friends, and you can look past baseball when it's personal time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, it's like, I always tell people, if you live somewhere in Minnesota, chances are the town that you're in has a team that plays during the summer. And if not, there probably is one not too far away from you. So I always tell people, take up those chances, like go watch it. Even if you could care less about baseball, but you just like sports, or, just chilling at the ballpark on a July afternoon with a hot dog and a beer. It's a pretty solid night to me, I'd say.
Absolutely. This is a little side story, but I know there's a guy from Elysian who used to come to our Sunday baseball games, and just because we would sell beer and the liquor stores would be closed on Sundays. So that's how he became an Indians fan.
Nice.
That's funny.
There's some pretty good town team announcers out there too. I mean, I'd like to think we got a pretty darn good one in Bob Thomas, but there's some people who have been announcing for years and years and years, and like I wish we did walk-up songs. We don't. I don't know if you guys do, but sometimes people have walk-up songs and all sorts of things, and it's an experience.
Yeah, we don't have any walk-up songs. I know a few teams in our league do, and every time you go there, it's like kind of jealous.
Yeah, I wish we had.
I do think like the little things though about town team. You'd mentioned your, broadcaster and announcer. We've got a guy that he's passionate about doing the scoreboard and announcing every game. You don't have to ask him. You can count on him to show up and do that. That's just out of the love of the game, and I think that's pretty special.
Also, I think, granted, any A's listening to this, they're probably thinking, Deco, you don't do any field work. But in town team, you gotta prepare the field before and after the game too, and it almost makes you appreciate a little more what you're doing, because it's like you're putting in the work to do it. It's like, well, we're chalking the fields, we're raking it. We better take this serious and see if we can win. And I will admit, I lack on the field work. I'll admit, but I try to make up with it in my BP. I throw a lot of BP.
Sure, somebody's got to do it. That is true though, and now just I do quite a bit of the field work before the game, chalking the lines and the batters boxes and all that. And when we go to different parks and I notice that their stuff is sharp, their edges are their field edges are clean and cut, and the boxes are clean and hard. It's almost, once you do it, you kind of give them a tip of the hat and say, you guys worked hard, nicely done, congratulations, good for you guys.
We're the only team that I know of. I'm sure there's another one, but we're the only ones that I know of that still use like the long wooden things and the chalk to chalk a line. We don't have like an actual thing for it. And
I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I'm sure there's more out there, but to my knowledge, we're the only ones that do that. And I think at this point, it's just kind of a sense of pride. Like, nah, we're gonna keep doing it.
Right? That's another beauty of the game of baseball right there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Nolan, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's fun. Obviously, Nick, you and I have competed against each other for quite some time, and you are certainly a social shortstop. I do remember plenty of games where, and this was like the first time we played you guys, you'd just be at shortstop, just having fun, chatting away.
I can't tell you how many times I get yelled at. Tico, pay attention.
Then Lucas, obviously getting to know you at Bethany and seeing you around the ballparks the last couple of years. I think I ran into you a couple times this past summer.
Yeah.
Hopefully continue to keep doing that stuff. It's fun.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me. Well, again, like I said, thanks for coming on. Certainly would love to have you on in the future. Maybe, maybe get a live show after a game or something, after one of these tournament games. That'd be pretty cool. Get Nolan come on from Waterville. That'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, I guess for all the folks listening, like I said, go check out a baseball game, Townball game near you this summer. Definitely recommend it. I hear Jeter's going to be at all the Waterville Indians games, so you have to go for that.
Yeah, he's right up in. He's not going to leave me alone now.
The official bat dog.
I wish I did train him to do that. That would be so cool to do it.
That would be cool. Yeah,
I have thought about that on my next dog. Jeter's getting he's 6 now, but I'm eventually going to get a new dog, and I think I might. That has crossed my mind to train him to do the bat dog.
That would be really cool.
Nice. Awesome. All righty, folks. Thank you for listening to this episode. As for myself, Nick, Nolan, and Jeter, until next time, we are out.